Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Here we are again. Lots of viewers in chat. Happy to see y'all. Thanks for coming. We got a couple of good questions for you guys tonight, discussing episodes 91 through 95. Joining me tonight is the lovely Silas and Ronnie. Silas, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm having a good time. I'm wearing my nice shirt. I got my fancy cocktail. I got my new earrings that my wonderful girlfriend Lisa got for me for my birthday.
New earrings.
And new glasses.
What are the earrings? You told us, but we weren't live. You told us.
Yeah, they have
Ooh.
They have the Tree of Gondor from Lord of the Rings, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, on them. Which is the first time when I got my ears pierced, that was the first thing I wanted were some like stud earrings with the Tree of Gondor on them. And then I was surprised for my birthday.
We love it. Yeah, Silas turned 32, I believe, right?
Yep.
32?
Oh,
I'm an old
shit,
man.
Silas. I thought you were 16 still. What?
I was born
32.
in
Those long flowing
the
locks?
80s.
I was born. I loved growing up in the 80s.
Yes. I lived the first 2 years of my life in the 80s. No, I'm 26.
26.
I'm over the hump.
That's right. Oh, we're over the hill now.
Wait, like
Man,
the
I hate
halfway
getting
point of your
old.
life, or
Don't worry about it. It's, I don't know.
Hey, look, I have told
the hump?
many people on many occasions that I want to die when I'm like 60. Like 60's prime time real estate to go because, and hear me out, because you don't fall apart. You know, I feel like eventually I'm just gonna get to an age where like nothing is fun anymore. Maybe I'm wrong, but if I die like on a jet ski or something, very good time.
I would love to die like as I'm aging before like I start getting like, needing an oil change every few days. But I like to think that is like the selfish way to go. It's
Yeah.
like once you get to a certain age, you're no longer living for yourself and you're more living for those who like care about you. So,
That's
I'm
true.
down for that.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like we've talked about this before. I want to say this
We
was
have,
some
we
kind of like pre-pod opener or something. But
Very
no.
morbid pod. Maybe it got scrapped. Who knows?
Maybe we threw it away. Maybe it's a forbidden
Maybe-
pre-pod. Yeah.
Maybe we did.
Ronnie, how are you? Ronnie, what is your favorite color?
My favorite color is actually like a salmon color. So
Ooh.
I'm wearing like a suit jacket and like this like weird like quarter button t-shirt. I don't know. But on the
t-shirt.
bottom, we got these like solid
Wow.
salmon shorts going on. And these are my favorite shorts. They're really comfortable. And it's like a really nice color. So
What a
that's my
great
favorite color, Zach.
Yeah, thanks for bringing your favorite color along for the opener here.
Mhm.
What a horrendous way to start this show, but we're here.
This is what happens when we don't have people other than us in the studio.
We're not on our best behavior. Okay, all right. So a couple quick announcements before we dive in. So also we figured out a way for all you viewers out there. Usually those in the Discord weren't able to see me. Just because I thought the camera was not working properly. But we figured out a way to where they can see me, but unfortunately it's just this really gritty, piss poor version of the studio. It's like a backed up version of it. So they're looking at me like with a green screen and like a keyboard on my lap. So like, but at least we can react to each other now, which is good.
Yeah.
Usually there was no camera. Couple of quick announcements. So this was just a shout out from last time. We did introduce a new Patreon tier. The famous hero tier, we only have one spot, I believe, left for that. That's a very cool one. The bundle is about the same as the distinguished hero tier, but you get to play a one-shot with us and your friends of your choosing at that tier once a year. So check that out if you haven't done so already. We have the Patreon 2.0 poll has been wrapped up. Thank you all who are watching and who will be watching in the future who participated in that. It gave us a really good insight into what we're doing, and we're actually just finalizing a lot of your recommendations right now. So even tonight, we've included a new Somebody actually had brought this up, had mentioned this as part of the, something we can improve the show on, and this is just making sure that let me back it up there, sorry. Just making sure that we're including kind of everybody, allowing people to ask questions. So, lots of you have asked questions. We're going to be diving a lot into audience questions tonight. If you have a question you want to ask, you can drop it in chat tonight for a chance to win this matte black D20 that I hold in my hand.
D20 is hot.
Ooh. It's hot. Look at that.
Pretty awesome.
That's
That's
a
a
20, fucker! You piece of shit! I hate it. I'm gonna get the booze. No, that's laughter. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
So if you have submitted questions, you're eligible for that tonight. We'll be announcing the winner of that this evening. So ask away in chat. If we have time, we'll grab some of those questions. I can't really bring it up yet, but we have one piece of merch in particular that we're working on right now. The artist, Gustavo, is finishing it up for us, and we're very excited to share it with you all. So that'll be available to all $25 tier members, the distinguished hero tier members on Patreon. Check that out over at patreon.com/basicallygoodpodcast. You can type in exclamation point Patreon in the chat tonight to get a link over there.
It might be our most hype merch yet. Like I am legitimately super excited for.
Yep.
He's
like without spoiling anything.
He's not wrong. We're very excited. It's okay. So this I guess let's give the viewers a little bit of sneaky peeky tonight. So this is going to be a basically good podcast piece of merch. And we were trying to find something that is not just like a logo that we could slap on that's like represents us. And I believe Chance brought it up, the idea up, and it was like absolutely. It was a no contest. We didn't talk about it any further. We knew exactly that's what we wanted. So be ready. Stay tuned. Okay, let's dive in. Again, right before we get started, Spoiler City tonight. So we're going to be talking about episodes 91 through 95 of the Basically Good podcast. If you are not up to date, don't watch this, kings and queens and other royalty. Don't watch this just yet. We have plenty of past recorded What's Going On Here episodes on our YouTube that you can catch up, so you don't feel like you're missing anything. You just have to watch it later. So let's dive in. Episode 91 through 95 of the Basically Good podcast, starting with Home is Where the Goblins Are. This is the Frizzigig solo episode. The council meets with Frizz to decide the future of Gimgash goblins and the Citadel Alteran goblins and gets a decent haul from fishing with old friends. Silas, first off, did you have fun recording this episode? Because it sounded like you did.
A great time.
Yeah, it was
Well,
very
we
easy
got
to see
talk
that you were
about
having a good time.
There were a lot of things that I had been thinking about, and I never gotten a good opportunity to bring them up, and this episode was just a really great opportunity to kind of just talk about all the things we need to talk about and kind of get some of that stuff out, and it was great. It was fun. Doing the one-on-one stuff is really fun.
Very cool. Yeah, no. So let's discuss the push and pull kind of from both sides. So we have this one side of goblins that believes it's safer to stay, at Gimgash, and the other side that wants to return to their home at the castle. Does Frizz feel caught in the middle? And does the dynamic change because his father's representing the side that wants to stay, or at least just a side?
I think he feels caught in the middle as much as he feels caught on the outside, if that makes sense. Like yes, right. He's from Gimgash, has been around the goblins at the breach, but also he doesn't get along with these groups necessarily. Like he doesn't feel like a part of either one. So while he is the natural go-between, he also kind of feels like, but also I don't have, what am I trying to say? It's not that he's not invested in both of those groups, but he just doesn't feel like as much a part of either one. Like kind of, he's grown up that way, and also sort of like intentionally, like he never planned on being a part of either one of these groups, and now all of a sudden he's the mediator.
Right.
And so he is kind of forced into this position where he has to put his feelings out there very plainly about the groups, which I mean, if you've made it this far in the podcast, like feelings aren't Frizzigig's best and favorite thing in the world, and is constantly having to work through them. And so yeah, like it was kind of he was in the middle as much as he was like on the outside of the situation, kind of forced to intervene in some way, I think, to some extent.
Right. No, yeah, that's perfect. So, obviously the council is going back and forth, bickering back and forth, and Frizzigig kind of steps up. We have this scene where he steps up and he kind of just lays out very eloquently, I might add, a solution that he thinks is pretty strong, and that is to have everybody come back to the castle to unite once again instead of being split, just in general split. We have a question from the audience, from Scallywag here on Discord and Patron Alley. Frizz has changed so much since the start of the campaign in a way that has been very natural, I might add. Does he ever feel any conflict with this newfound wisdom, or has he become confident in his growth and choices? And I would mix all of what I've just said into that question. Especially with this kind of authority that he brings to the table, is that something that is becoming more natural for him?
I think so, and it's less that it was like it wasn't natural for him before, and I think more like his he is finally kind of owning up to his responsibilities that he's kind of always had. I mean, like he's been, I mean, that's part of his motivation for like finding Treazel, kind of is like, Treazel was supposed to be the next leader of Gimgash, and then she was gone, and Frizzigig doesn't like feel like he's cut out for that, or yeah, like a lot of people who have been leaders, don't like choose that for themselves necessarily. And I think he's finally kind of realizing that he just needs to step up.
Right.
And it's taken him a long time to get there. And I think a lot of the emotional growth and change he's gone through up until that point have kind of been preparing him for that. Like just kind of he's been constantly having to come to terms with his own doubts or fears, or just things he's been running from, and having to face those and having to change because of it. So yeah, the question felt very big, and I'm not 100% sure what the original question was,
right.
But no, I mean, the growth was when Chance and I were talking about before we started, and we were like talking about what Frizzigig, growth was the number one thing we talked about.
Right. Like
I wanted Frizzigig to be a character that grew and had a lot of growing to do, and I wanted him to be very dynamic and changing, and so yeah, so that's what's happened. Not in the way that I expected it to, honestly, not at all. I had a plan, and that plan didn't really happen. And I had a loose plan, but I've tried overall just kind of let things go and just really think about well, if I was in this situation and I had all of that, what would I do, and so yeah, so I guess a lot of that growth came from I wanted Frizzigig to change. I didn't want Frizzigig to be a rock.
Right.
And I think oddly enough, because of that, he is becoming more of a rock in the group. And I think, just the Goblin Society and all this stuff, it feels kind of like he's becoming a cornerstone for this new Goblin Society. And that is not what I or him, I think, really wanted. But here we are. And
I think that's great. I think it's a really good, all-encompassing answer. I really like what you said about him having to, it's like there's a must, especially in this situation where there's no Urkel to like jump in front. There's no Kaleri to jump in front and like speak first. It's like this is literally like you are the voice for this for I guess for us as a group, representing us is probably it's like I feel like this council meeting goes so much deeper than even the party, right? Like this is your family, so it's like a family meeting.
Yeah.
And it was great. I really just loved the episode altogether. I think it was very well done. And
I would argue that there's always a must when it comes to Frizzigig, if you know what I mean.
Oh jeez. Hey, you know what though? You know what? Calm down, audience. Soundbite. I will say any time that the stink joke is made on somebody else other than Urkel, I love it. So I'm all for it.
Or Stinky Urkel.
But Musty Frizz and Stinky Urkel, that's pretty funny. Let's move on. Stronger Than Blood, 92, episode 92. Word reaches Breach Hill that our adventurers aren't terrorists. Okay, so they finally lay Tiberius and Sarah to rest, and they meet some new friends, or some of Tiberius's old friends, really. So another question from Scallywag in the Discord: are there any half-orc funeral or burial traditions you can give us some insight on? Rest in peace, Tiberius and Sarah. Truth be told, I think that, first off, really good question. I think this is a fun question to look at. And if you remember when we were in the Mwangi, Urkel ran into some like tribal half-orcs, right? Like of the Mwangi, which they're a very tradition-heavy society. So like that makes sense. That would be something that may be a part of Tiberius's past or something. But truth be told, I think the way that Tiberius was written was like he's a Breach Hill boy. Like he's an Isagirian half-orc. So he's pretty like the traditions of Breach Hill, the traditions of town. I mean, Urkel grew up in the same town, so he's kind of got that like little small town vibe going. So I wouldn't say that he, other than, I don't know if this was mentioned, and I don't know if I can retcon this, but I think he was buried with a sword. And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. I think, having, spoilers for a little bit later, we're talking about this evening. Oh no, it's not 95. It's not 95. So I keep talking, but the change that a couple of our heroes are going through, no longer kind of needing those items, is cool to imagine that he is buried with the sword. So nothing really traditional or cultural as far as that goes, outside of just being in a graveyard. But yeah, I think Chance did a really good job with the scene. I think it was a good funeral. So good to put them both down finally, as we kind of had this like shocking return to Breach Hill and everybody thought we were terrorists. Ronnie and Silas, question for you all. How does it feel to be back after the funeral? This is our first time coming back from Eladir, and kind of back from the Mwangi. We didn't have any time to like simmer down because things got crazy right away. But how does it feel to be back at the Wizard's Grace, throwing back some Wizwiser and some Isagiri Pale Ales together as a group?
I think it feels, I don't know, it feels really weird, like as a both as Kaleri and as Ronnie. I think that like, as Ronnie, being in Breach Hill for real this time, and just like hearing the simple flute and drum that we listened to for like probably a collective 200 hours a couple of years ago, was something special. And it was really good to be back and like cracking jokes in the Wizard's Grace. And like it was weird because if you remember, like that was a really sad time. Like it was the funeral.
Sucked.
But all we wanted to do was joke. And like I think a part of that is like our characters coping too. But I think a lot of that is also just us as players, being somewhere familiar again. that like level of hostility that we'd been living through for like a year in the podcast, you know, going through the Mwangi with the cult impending doom hanging over our heads the whole time.
Right.
And then with the Eladir arc being especially dark, which it did have some moments of like some really funny moments and some good moments. Like Aaron's whole traverse down to the bottom of the Gi was hilarious at moments.
Oh my
but like
gosh,
still,
yes.
it was there was a massive dark cloud, and I guess like we just were ready for a reprieve from that. So,
Totally.
but I think Kalere was like, this is like the first time that she came back to Breach Hill and felt like, oh, like this is what home feels like now.
Right.
You know, it's no longer a Crivel, like Breach Hill's home now, and that was nice.
Right. Does it feel different? You know, does it feel like? I mean, you kind of touched on like, you know, it felt weird, but I feel like the Breach Hill, it's like we'll never have the same feeling about Breach Hill than we did when we first got started with the adventure,
Yes.
right? Silas, go ahead. How do you feel?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it felt kind of to me like when you you come back after summer break to school, and like the classes are different and everything's different. It's like it's the same, but it's not the same.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, especially if you're in a school or something, like you don't really see a lot of the people you go to school with during the summer. You know, like you've been gone for some time. It's like everything's like the same, and like the people are same, kind of, but then everything's also different. And
Right.
everything's changed a little bit, and almost like or yeah, like when you go away from something and you undergo change, and then you come back to it, and it has, I mean, Breach Hill's like grown and changed some, but not as much as our characters have.
Right.
And
Totally.
and that, like, it makes it feel almost like you are in like in an anachronism, almost like you're not, like this place has been frozen in time a little bit, and now you are somewhere different. Like you are somewhere completely different, and you are in this place that feels old.
Right.
It's like going back to
I get-
Cersei after moving away,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a lot like that.
Yeah.
And like it's the same, but it feels odd to be in something the same again.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I've kind of been getting a lot of that.
Totally.
It's just like it's not home in the same way that it used to be.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so good. It's like good to be back, but it's just something is a little different, and it'll never go back to being the same.
Right.
And you
Totally.
kinda, I think, like
It's
Frizzigate
weird
like
that
knows
the-
that like deep down.
The Breach is almost more home than Breach Hill the town now. When like
right. And when you say,
Right.
when we get like this,
Yeah.
this like, oh, you guys are like under scrutiny, and so it's like go up the hill. It's like, oh, fine, I'll go up the hill.
fine, yeah, it's
Scrutiny up
fine.
the side of the hill. And I love the mental image of like the fireplaces and like it being fixed, right? And I mean, we'll get into this kind of in a little bit, but the more people that we have, you know, the more bodies. That's not the right way. The more people, like the goblins, and eventually the Akujai, and you know, having some more people there, it feels like a community center almost, versus just like this castle. We got cat cam on Ronnie. Cat
And
cam
Silas.
segment. Oh, double cat cam.
Double cat cam.
Boys cat cam. Here, we'll get some boys cat cam. Get some applause for cat cam.
Some meaty cats.
We love the cat cam.
He's trying to climb up the back of my chair. That's why I'm holding him now.
We're
Oh,
just
now he's biting my arm.
restraining him. Okay, Silas, moving on. You get some insight from some of Tiberius's friends. First off, very cool they knew Gimgash at all. But you were told that he is headed last time, about 20 years ago, he was headed to the Five Kings Mountains. Frizz mentions the fragments that are also dwarven, and the Five Kings Mountains being really like of a heavy dwarven influence. What is that? Like, what is going through Frizz's mind? Because you knew nothing. I remember Urkel asks, did you know about this, Frizz? He's like, no, he didn't really tell his family anything. Nobody really knew, but it sounds like a handful of adventurers did. What does that make Frizz want to do? Is there anything? Does anything change after like you learn that? After Frizz learns that?
Yeah. Frizz still wants some answers, and there's a lot of unanswered things. And as much as he tries, and this is something I started to show in the solo episode, as much as he believes things or tries to accept things, there will always be a part of him that can't, and there will always be a part of him that can't let it go.
Right.
And that interaction in this episode we're talking about, like, spoke directly to that.
Right.
He was curious, he asked, and it's kind of like sometimes you ask a question and you kind of want there to not be an answer.
Yeah.
Because it would almost put your mind at ease if there wasn't, but like getting an answer and no, it's like there's something else to do again. And
right.
And while not as drastic as before, there is something that is like pulling his mind elsewhere.
Right.
In wondering and yeah, I mean, he's gonna be wondering, what's out there, and he's got some leads to learn more about the things that happened to him when he was younger, and more about his family and why he is the way he is, and in all of that, and yeah, so it is like a seed has been planted, and
right.
we'll see how big it grows.
Right.
Because I don't know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's great. Because it's like, that's an expedition, right? Like, that's not like I'll just pop over to the Five Kings Mountains. Like, that's an expedition somewhere. So,
yeah, I'm hoping
I think
a certain magical teleporting room might just take us there.
Right. Like, I'd be stoked to go. Like, that just sounds like so fun.
It would be very convenient if it did.
To explore.
Right.
Right.
I think we know somebody who can make that happen. Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
a sixth portal
I know
showed
exactly
up.
one person who can make that happen, actually.
The sixth portal was repaired, and it goes there. I don't know.
What?
Really good answers. Thank you for that. Thanks for the insight. So we'll see. Is really what that is. We'll put a pin in it, and we'll see what comes of it. Next, episode 93, Lunch Date. This is a very Urkel-heavy episode. Urkel goes.
Urkel is heavy. He's like 7'6", right?
He's like 25 feet tall. Gigantic. He's 6'9", I think. I don't think he's 7 feet tall. He's close. Urkel goes to town to take care of some business. That's literally the description of this episode. Edgar has to take care of some business. Very descriptive. The big takeaway for this episode is, Urkel going and having lunch with Greta, discussing some pretty crazy stuff that there's still no solid answers on, about Lamond Breachton and the fountain in particular that they were sitting on top of. Nothing really came of it, but there is some relationship development for them. But we do have a question from Malia Brown in Discord, and Patreon Malia says, my question is speculative for all three of you tonight. What do you guys think about Greta? Is she hiding something? Is she secretly evil? Discuss.
She's hella evil.
Christian.
Not necessarily like
Basic Bernie in chat is he can go kiss my ass. Big claps from the audience.
It is half that, like, I suspect, and the other half, it's the outcome I want.
Right.
It's the juiciest one.
Totally.
I want her to be the secret mastermind of everything.
Totally.
And I want there to be, like, with the whole, we talk about, like, Landon Breachin and all of that. Like, I want I want that to, like sometimes you watch a new like TV show and you're like watching the first season and you're like, oh, like this is good, like, oh, and then all of a sudden, like the things kind of, you're like, oh, whoa, that like big thing is about to resolve, and then it resolves, but it doesn't, because there was actually way more going on behind the scenes that you never knew about, and the story just explodes.
Right.
That is what I want out of Greta.
Right.
I want Greta to be that.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
We've had like this. We've had our conspiracies about Greta from like the get go. I think we talked about that maybe at like the first boys weekend, the first basically good retreat when we were doing trivia or something like that. But we've had suspicions about Greta since like episode like 18.
Yeah. No, I
and
think
like
even before that, maybe
even before that.
Sure.
Yeah, I
It was in
since
season
the Lamb and
1.
Preached and stuff came about, we started getting weird about Greta. But I think like it can go one of two ways. I think we all suspect something's going on with Greta right now. Whether or not she's like a part of the Scarlet Triad, or whether or not she's got some other weird stuff going on, like she's part of another faction, is to be said. But I think like the story could go either way, right? Like it could be like, I think Greta has a bigger part in the story than like is let on right now, but she could either be working behind the scenes in a good way or a bad way, and I'm excited for either of them. And it's like also really nice when like, a story builds up or like gives you subtle clues about somebody being like this evil presence the whole time, and then at the end they're actually like on your side.
Right.
And like that's also like a really nice twist. So I think whatever happens with Greta, as long as she's still a part of the story come book 6, I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah, no, I totally feel the same way. We were discussing kind of before the show just about like, Alec has had a much bigger role in our story, I think because of chance, right? Like, because he developed this character to kind of live in his universe. And we had a lot of his involvement in Eladier, right? And so we're stuck wondering, is Greta being kept around because Urkel's interested in her, having that relationship with her, having kind of him representing, I guess, us and her, like talking to the mayor of town kind of thing, or something more, and Chance has just kind of, allowed that to keep happening and added an importance for, or Ronnie brought up that maybe this is a perfect out for Chance and she's mega involved anyway, but we're just gonna it's just a cover up. So
Yep.
It could be any of those, could be any of those. So the next question comes from patron Ali, again, Scallywag. Does Urkel, and it kind of goes with what we talked about, does Urkel have any ulterior motives for wanting to get close with Greta, or is he truly just interested in her company? I guess I'll clum clean. Just put it in chat, whatever. I will come clean. I think he likes her company. I think he definitely likes her company. I think he enjoys.
Oh, is he invested?
Being around her. But I think.
Is that what Baker
How much stock?
How much stock
has he bought?
Ah,
how much of Greta's stock
outside?
have
He
you
has
bought in her company?
49% of Greta's stock. She's still the primary shareholder. No, I think that he is finding comfort. There was a scene that I wanted to have happen, but I motioned against it at the very end with him and Urkel because I thought it was probably too much. Now I feel like I have to explain it because it's like he was just going to be very emotionally open with her, and I think that like the timing was off with we had already dumped so much emotion into the Tiberius and Sarah loss that it was like it's time to move on from this. There's no need to continue to kind of drag this out. But I think he feels emotionally comfortable to talk with her about just like life things. And we kind of see that in this episode. We see him kind of talking more about like his personal life, her personal life. And that's a fun little development, but I wouldn't say that he's like ready to like ask her out or anything. Like he's still just kind of like enjoying being around her. Part of me thinks that he also has suspicions about her, and he's being a little bit guarded. But I think that if it were to be considered true, it would shatter him. Like I definitely think he thinks that she could be involved somehow, or that she is aware of something. She's just not telling him the full story. You know, she might not be the big bad evil guy at the end of the game, but she might just be trying to cover up something because she believes so heavily in the town, in Layman to Breachton. And she kind of mentions that a lot during the episode. She gets bent out of shape when he brings up how he could be, you know, the problem. So good question there. Moving on. Anything else that needs to be said about it? Did I cut anyone off? Anyone have anything else to add there?
I think you claim clean. So
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I'm super drunk right now. I'm drinking sparkling. Episode 94, Building a Bridge. So this is the Clary episode. The time has come for Clary to continue her training and learn more about her mother's amulet. Ronnie, what a tremendous episode. I believe this is Clary's first solo episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I believe so.
Once returning through Hunter Gate, the temple's been rebuilt. Clary works to learn more about Callistra and Cetaphis, as well as a very interesting transformation towards the end of the episode. You mentioned Clary feeling much more at home here in the episode. That it would be good to be, or that it was good to be back. Would you think that she would want to live here if responsibility back home wasn't so great?
By here, do you mean a Crivel or?
A Crivel, yes.
Oh,
Sorry.
a Crivel.
Back to her home.
I don't think so. I think Calere has moved on from a Crivel. I think she loves being back there. It's warm in temperature and in like the way that people have received her.
Right.
Which is great. But it's almost like she's outgrown a Crivel, right? It's like she's got people on the other side of the world that like rely on her, that are her family, and she's got a lot of unfinished business. I think like if Clary survives to the end of the show, or to the end of the story, you know, whatever that means, and if Crivel is still standing, does she go back home? Actually, probably not. I don't think so. Because I'm just like thinking about me as a person, and I love like my hometown. I love the people, but when I go back, no matter how good it is, it always feels like something's off. Like Silas was talking about earlier, with Breach Hill for Frizz. But yeah, I don't know. Like when I go back to Cersei to see my family, I'm like, this is great, and I love this place and all the memories that I have here. And I'm glad there's no weird shit going on. I still would rather be in Indiana, right? You know, so like
Right.
I think Kaleri has kind of made that similar transition where she's like, you know, I will forever protect this place. You know, if I get a call that Crivel's under attack, you know,
Here comes
I'm
Clary.
coming back.
Right.
You know, blazing level 18 Clary blazing through the teleporter to slay some ass.
Right.
But yeah, I think that her home is no longer a Crivel.
Right. Right. Very similar to what we had talked about a little bit before. That's a great answer. So there's this scene where several Akuji forego their place, or I don't know if right is maybe the right term, with the clan, and choose to head into the gate with you to protect Hunter Gate from the other side. Question from Scallywag here. Now that some of the Akuji have gone as far as to cross through the gates to help protect Breach Hill, does Kaleri feel more optimistic about the Leopard clan? And could they become more open-minded and amenable?
I think they have. I think they've grown as much as they will. And I think Claire is appreciative for that, but that's part of the reason that she's like not going to go home, right? Because her philosophy of life is just different than theirs. Because while they did allow others to come with her through the portal to protect, you know, the portal from the other side, and also to protect Breach Hill and the humans, they made them all Kaleti, which is a massive curse, you know, for any Akuji to have to go through.
Right.
For Kaleri, it's a little bit different, because for her, it's like, well, my mother was a Kaleti. I'm walking in her footsteps. I wasn't really a part of the Akuji anymore. By being a Kaleti, I'm almost being let back in the door, right? Like, as a hero, nonetheless. But, like, this curse doesn't mean that much to me. This culture is not mine anymore, right?
Right.
Like it's more of a gesture of honor to Calere, and like the negatives of the curse of wearing gold and being marked and protecting is something she was planning on doing anyway. But like you really see it, I think, with the interaction between Akosa and Yasi. You know how, almost somber Yasi is about Akosa becoming a Kaledi as well. That it really is like a big deal, and it's a curse, and it's a mark that's placed on you forever. You are always the first to die if the people of, Acrival, Kujai in general, are put in danger.
Right.
And I think that Kaleri realized that, like, that's as far as they're willing to go, right? Like, their goal is always to protect their homeland and their people, but nobody else. And the one exception they'll make is if you take upon a curse, then you can go through the portal and protect it from the other side. And, protect us from afar, but also protect the people there. So I don't think they're going to grow anymore, but I think Claire has come to terms with that. And I think she's okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's a very good. I think that's a good answer. In the chat, Scallywag says, I love that you can't change everyone, right? Like, there's never going to be a complete overhaul of the culture. I remember back in book 2, that was tough for our party, like, as a whole. There was a lot of stuff that just clashed with, like, the culture that a lot of us were used to. And we, there were questions of like, why can't you just X? Why can't we just X? Well, that's, it's not really our call to make. And I don't necessarily even think, even with such a good argument like Calere made, I was really impressed with the argument of like, you're sworn to protect the gate, but if it's compromised from the other side, you're not protecting the gate, which is a very good kind of request for assistance. But it doesn't negate the fact that you're still leaving, and that's how it is. So I think it was handled super well, and I think that's a great answer. Another question. Actually, sorry. That is about. I mean, we have to mention the Jaguar. Or it's a leopard, right? Is it a leopard or is it jaguar that you turn it? You turn it into a jaguar.
It's a jaguar.
Yeah, black jaguar, right?
Mm-hmm. A jet black midnight jaguar. Also, to answer Malia B's question in the chat really quick, Nikita did not volunteer to go because she's a half elf and thus cannot become a Kaledi, so she's still an Acrival.
Thank you for catching that. I did not see that. Very good answer. Moving on. So one thing this wraps up. This is the last episode that really wraps up. In beginning of 95, we're gonna be talking. We're gonna be discussing episode 95. So if you all now, there's several people in the audience.
Warning.
I would say come back in a little bit as we announce the winner of this die here. But we're gonna be diving into 95 as we wrap up kind of 94 here. This is the last episode, moving into 95, where we kind of close out 2.5, season 2.5 of Basically Good. We get through the Urkel retrieval arc, and then we're about ready to step into Dreamgate, which is episode 95. And it feels really good. I think it feels really good to see this kind of come to a close. I think we're all ready for kind of the next step. As we... weirdly, we talked about this as a group, push the offensive on the Scarlet Triad. It felt like book 2 was almost a little bit reactionary. We didn't really know what we were walking into. Now we have a little bit of a better idea what's going on, and it's like next step is about seeing where this goes because it's obviously important, to them. And so why? Why is this important? Time has come for the adventurers to discover what is behind Dreamgate, and we encounter a temple to Desna that's been defiled, as well as some new battle music, I believe, hits our ears. New music in general. Is that correct? No, that's actually incorrect.
It
sounds new. Maybe it's been forever.
Patreon hero Carson texted me about this, and he said, "Hey, just wondering, was that new battle music and new like ambient music that like is new or whatever?" And no, that is actually a couple of tracks that I made like back in season 1, like within the first 10 or 20 episodes. and Chance never found a spot to use them, so I guess he still had them hanging around and like
There they
dusted
are?
them off
Oh.
and threw them in. I mean,
So-
like, you can. Okay, so I can tell because I'm the one that has been making the music, so this is an easy for me to tell. But you can tell a very obvious split between year 1 basically good music and year 2 basically good music.
But
By
it's
the
not
drums.
bad. Yeah.
No, by the
rhythm.
drums.
Yeah.
The not even the rhythms, but there's a very specific sound to the timpani and the bass drums I used in the first year. And as soon as I heard those, I was like, oh, this is from year 1. So if you're ever wondering, that's how you can tell. Like if you hear something and you're like the drums sound a little bit more muffled or there's more timpani than usual, then that's probably a season 1 or a year 1 track.
Is it just a different drum kit? Is that what? Or
Yeah, it's just a
There
different
it
drum.
is. Different drum kit. First question for episode 95, we have from Gluten Free Guy. What are some predictions that are coming for this chapter that you all have, as well as the end game that is ever approaching? Good question. What do you guys think for this chapter?
I have no clue. Okay, so
Yeah.
if I had to make blind predictions, because we're at that point in the chapter where it's still kind of prologue, and chances had given us a lot of meat to sink our teeth into yet. Like no NPCs even, right? I think that big predictions is I think we're gonna run into another member of the Scarlet Triad, and they're gonna be the final boss for this chapter. I think that I still think they were trying to revive DeHawk. I don't think that was just a Cole thing. I think that that's going to come back. But I think he's only a part of their larger plan. I will say that. And my final prediction is I think Kalere is going to die.
Jeez, you. What? Excuse me?
Well,
I think Kalere's going to die.
I didn't like that one bit at all.
But, like I think what I mean by that is I think she's going to go dying 4, which maybe that's dying 5 for Kalere because of the Ion Stone she has. She might get revived or something like that, but I think Kalere is going to bite the dust at some point this chapter.
Why do you say that?
Just because the further into Pathfinder you get, the more rocket taggy it becomes, and like as clunky as second edition is, it's still very high damage very quickly, especially if you get like all 3 actions of an attack spent on you, I guess a specific character. Kalere is not built to take that much damage.
Right.
She never will be.
Yeah.
That's not how I created her as a character. So she's not a tank. She is a DPS. She's DPS, but she just stands in front of everybody. So, and even when she transforms into her Jaguar form, she only gets like 15 more false health, right? And so my prediction is this is the chapter where it's going to start getting a little bit ridiculous with the damage and the death effects. And I don't think Kalere is going to be able to roll well enough to save every death effect, and she's sure as hell not going to have enough HP to withstand every attack. So I think that this will be the chapter where she bites the dust. And hopefully we're able to revive her. I would hate to say goodbye to Kalere. But
we all
creatures
would, right?
So I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised if somebody downs Kalere and then attacks her 3 more times and she just dies. Because
Put a pin in that, because there's another question here that I think we need to discuss surrounding that.
Well, I'm going to say now it is my personal mission for this chapter to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right. Silas, what do you think?
Frizzigig will throw no bombs and will only latch onto Kalere's back like a tiny little green backpack and just sneak some of those elixirs of life around every once in a while.
What do you think, Silas, for this season? Any predictions?
Well, I guess I just said my one is Kalere will not die.
Right.
Real predictions though. I don't know. I had like a better idea going into the Kujai chapter and also into like we said in the Urkel retrieval arc, like those goals and the context in the and all of that, and like the setting all felt a lot clearer. This one feels a lot more unknown to me.
Right.
I kind of don't know. I mean, we've already run. I'm trying to. No, wait, I shouldn't say that. That was almost spoiled.
I was gonna say we have to be careful. We have a few in the bag, so we're trying not to talk about certain things.
Okay. Yeah, I honestly kind of have no idea.
Right.
I also, if it's less that I think like if we run into someone, or if another member of the Scarlet Triad is like a big bad of this chapter, I think the Scarlet Triad is a smaller character in the overarching plot.
Gosh, I hope not. That's gonna be so scary.
And that means something bigger is going on, right? Like I suspect, but I don't think that's true. So I'm gonna say in this chapter, I think we're gonna get a lot closer to some of the like Dahak, Sayadi, in some of that stuff. I think maybe some more mysteries revealed around those things, and I just looking at it from like a story beats perspective. If we do learn more about the Scarlet Triad, I think it will be one of those things that like raises more questions than it answers. I think that's a possibility, but I see it going more on the. I guess like, to me, it feels like we've got this kind of like the Hawk Society and then Scarlet Triad,
Right.
and those two things just kind of happen to be like moving in parallel with each other, and I see more of the Hawk Society stuff going on, but I don't know. I would not be surprised if everything I said was completely. I just like genuinely don't know.
No clue.
No clue. Yeah, I feel like I have no clue. And it's frustrating because usually I think we've gone in with an objective. Like last time going into season, or book 2, we were talking to, Kaleri, and we understood that there was like a war waiting on the other side of this gate for us, right? Like it was like, we at least had this idea of like what the gate's going to open up to.
Oh, yeah.
We're going
to fight off the cult.
Right. So it's like going into this, we're just like, we just walk. We're gonna walk out in the middle of like a shopping mall. We're not gonna know what the heck, where are we? So,
only thing I know is Chance did not give us a ghost warning. That's the only thing I can go off.
We didn't get a ghost warning. That's correct.
We didn't get a ghost warning, it's just DM required now after episode 4 of Penguin Game.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. But yes, so very, very, I agree with everything everybody else has said. Like, it's just very, very misty. I feel like we're going to have to probably like explain what's going on in, to the local community. That's just something that's just in my head, is like, we're going to have to start building, preparation for the Scarlet Triad and what's going to happen. We have a couple of like player knowledge things versus character knowledge things. Like we have a couple towns, countries that have been listed. So I guarantee you those are going to be like Katapesh and like one other, I think, that started with a K, that we're just off the dome. I can't remember it, but that we're going to have to go to talk with people about. So we'll see. It's kind of a blank slate for me too. Next question, a question from Carsonus on Discord. For the first time in a long time, while the gang has been going on the gang is going on an adventure that really isn't fueled by urgency, but rather is fueled by a sense of curiosity and adventure. With the new lens of this chapter of adventuring, what would you say your characters are thinking as they move forward? We have an idea of what the party is after as a whole, but what are Frizz and Kaleri looking for in this chapter, character-wise or player-wise? So,
fuck if I know.
Similar question. This is more about characters. Silas, fuck if I know.
That is the question I have been asking myself, Mr. Carsonis.
Right.
I kind of like. It's weird. It is. I like there's been some more questions brought up for Frizzigig, like specifically there's been some things answered, and this thing that we're going and doing feels the most detached from all of those things up until this point. And like it's it's the Desna Gate.
Right.
And that, like, there's something, I don't know. Like, I think there might be something there, and I think that's very possible. And so as far as, like, Frizzigig specifically goes, that's definitely something that's, like, eating away at the back of his head, because I think he sees that as another way to get some answers.
Right.
Is straight from Desna herself, and in a weird way, this might be the closest he's ever been to any sort of religious deity, and and so yeah, I mean like that's something, but for me, kind of like I was answering last question, and similarly for Frizzigig, this is a big unknown, and I think he has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's just it is so like I'm gonna go do this, and something's gonna happen. Yeah, like it's just that's all I have to say.
Yeah, we're gonna poke our head out of the gate and see what happens. Right.
Yeah, like literally, like that is actually like what it feels like.
Right. Ronnie, what about you? What about Calere?
I think, like, because there isn't that sense of urgency, it's a little bit different for Calere too. Like, I think, like, she's still very concerned with making sure the Hawk doesn't come back, knows that he's still, his presence is still active in Huntergate, knows his offspring is out in the wild, who she wanted to, we're not going to go into that. Anyway, but the only tie to Hawk that she knows of is the Scarlet Triad. She knows the Scarlet Triad is making some waves and being sus. So she is still like concerned with protecting the gates, going after them in whatever way that she can. That's still her like driving force. But also, like there's Aaron, right? And Aaron has a very specific goal right now. And
Right.
we still have a lot of exploring to do to find answers for him. So I think that Calere is also here to support Aaron. But I think she's more okay with taking more of a passive role. This chapter, I think, is really important. She doesn't see any imminent danger right now, but like they're going to a place where she can find answers and where she can continue to like, serve her higher goal of making sure like the great darkness doesn't return. The Age of Ashes.
Doesn't. Please clap. Please clap, Age of Ashes. With that, there was something. Malia asked another question. I thought it was good, and I didn't write it down on my sheet here.
Oopsie.
Yeah, I made a big boo boo. There is, and now I can't even think relatively what it was, but you got my memory jogging. I'm sorry. It definitely. It feels to me, Ronnie, you stated that the stakes don't. There's no imminent danger, right? Like there's no imminent danger. But I beg to differ. Hunter Gate was nearly found, and if it wasn't for Devoku, we might be looking at something different, right? We were able to stop Vote and Vero and kind of end that, but it was that was the question that Malia asked. She said, now that we're bringing in so many characters to help inside the breach, what's the kind of, is there any like impending doom that the characters are thinking of? I think Urkel is stressed about what could happen to the goblins, what could happen to the world if this is found out. And this is more of a, walking through the gate is more of a, like, there's a bit of urgency yes, thank you, Allie. I appreciate you diving in and wanting to find the actual question, but I think that's what it was. There's a bit of urgency to go find out. It's kind of Indiana Jonesy in my head. Like it's like find out before the other people find out, defend before the other people come, and that's like the big goal. It's not that necessarily I think character-wise Urkel knows what to expect, but he just knows that it's important, and like it's important that we get there first. It's important that we find where this leads first. So yes. Moving into kind of this question that you brought up, kind of this idea that you brought up earlier, Ronnie. Stakes that feel very high in combat right now. Ronnie and Silas, in particular, are there any new strategies that you're taking into combat with you now that there's more than just, at the end of this episode, one of the hags calls out to her sisters, 2 more come. Now we no longer have this horse to worry about, and not just the one hag, but 2 others. Is anything changing when it comes to how you guys individually deal with the enemies?
Well, it's funny that it's both Ronnie and I talking about this because we did the same strategy. We independently of each other, kind of reworked our characters a little bit to take the same strategy. I think mine is a lot more. I feel kind of bad. It feels like extremely metagamey for me to take this, but it also made sense. But we both did this whole double slice archetype to get in more damage.
Right.
I'll let Ronnie talk about his reasoning for his. But the reason I took it is I felt like, and it also made sense for Frizzigig to be feeling this way. Frizzigig has been this alchemist, this tinkerer, all of that his whole life. Has never been a fighter, has never been the person doing it. And now all of a sudden it matters when he hits.
Right.
It really matters. And he's got to make sure those hit. And so I kind of was thinking about this idea of him getting better at the physical parts of it. And the combat stuff. And the way I figured out how to do that was going back and changing some things about Frizzigig's feet specifically, and he took this what's it called? What's the archetype called, Ronnie? Do you remember? It's double slice soldier or something.
Multi attack mercenary,
dual weapon fighter or something like that.
Dual
maybe?
weapon fighter, that sounds right. Yeah.
And there is, it's meant to be used for melee weapons, but there's one feat in there that you can take that allows you to apply all of its things to thrown weapons, and bombs are thrown martial weapons, and which fits within that category. So now Frizzigig is able to throw kind of 2 bombs at the same time, and it's more accurate. And also there's some really cool stuff. I think Ronnie already took one of the super sick ones that you can take with that. And there's some really cool damage things you can do with it. There's this one super awesome debuff feat you can take that I don't think we have access to yet. It's a higher level one. I will be taking it when I can. But anyway, and then also shifting his strategy towards more of doing the whole debilitating bomb thing and doing some debuffs that way, and diversifying his bombs, and also doing a lot more elixirs, specifically so Calere can't die this next chapter, and that kind of thing. So that was I guess my reasoning and how I've changed is changing some of his alchemy stuff into I'm better at throwing things stuff.
Right. No, that's good. Ronnie, what about you? You similarly, I know, took the same feat, but kind of what's the repurposing of Calere for here?
Yeah, first I want to acknowledge that Silas and I did not communicate beforehand. And it was kind of funny when we realized that we had done the same thing. And you guys would be proud of me. I was holding my tongue the whole time Silas was talking. Bad joke after bad joke was just running through my head, but I didn't say any of them.
You're on live TV. We don't want to see Ronnie say something stupid in 4K.
No. Not not bad jokes as in I would feel ashamed for saying them. Bad jokes as in they just wouldn't hit, and gotta count your losses.
We have an audience here that will clap and laugh no matter what.
That is true. That is true. That is true. But captive audience.
Captive audience.
But
Nice audience. I think they're just nice to us.
I think the reason for Clara kind of shifting her combat style and her combat plan is somewhat metagamey, but I think it was more just when I was thinking of Clara moving forward, it just all made sense, and I think that like it all kind of fell into place weirdly enough, which like you love when that happens with the character, when it's like archetype, like storytelling wise, backstory, and character growth all kind of seamlessly falls into like a path. And some of that is hindsight, right? But I think like a lot of that also makes sense with the way that Clary is moving forward. I think I talked about this in episode 93 or something, or maybe it was 94, about how Clary is becoming more measured with like her rage. It's no longer a blind rage. It's more of like a focused, like revenge, almost like precise. Don't let the emotion get the better of you, because then you will be gotten the better of. So, I think that was
a Devokuism, if I'm not mistaken.
That was
right.
Yeah, Devoku is a follower of Callistra, and he was the one that brought that up to her, because that's what like he taught Akira and everything like that. And Clary, I think, is bought in to some extent. Yeah. And I think like the big, massive great sword flinging around the entirety of the battlefield was kind of a mirror of the way Clary was feeling and the way that she was acting.
Right.
Brash, large, deals damage, but when it misses hard, right?
Yeah,
like you swing, you have one swing, it hits the ground, you're wide open. And so she's pulled that back a little bit, and she has decided to buy into like the double slice one, because this relic is changing her body, right? She's becoming more and more almost like a druid to some extent, like where she has like these animal capabilities that are starting to like come about. And as a player, I was like, well, I really like this, and Chance and I discussed this a long time ago, and it's just now coming to fruition. And I was like, if Clary is still wielding a greatsword, it doesn't really make sense for her to bounce between like the powers of the relic and the powers that she's using. Like, why would I ever use my claws if I'm holding a greatsword? Well, the only option is if it gets like knocked out of my hand or if I drop it. That didn't feel genuine. It felt like the relic was more of an aesthetic thing than like an actual part of Clary's character. So from that perspective, I was like, ditch the greatsword. Let's make like the relic and its powers an integral part of what Clary does. And that kind of just fit with the whole like less brash, more measured, more agile, more precise kind of vibe that I wanted to go with. I mean, like the big thing, the one feat that I took that Silas hadn't taken yet, because he had to take the throwing feat first, was flinching slice. So if I hit with both of my claws, then I can spend an extra action to make the enemy bleed, up to the max amount of dice of the hardest hitting weapon that I'm using. So that's 2d6. So I can, just by hitting 2 attacks, which are both at max like attack, because of the way that the multi-attack or double weapon warrior works. So I get like 2 plus 19s, and if they both hit, then the person is bleeding 2d6 until they save. And that's like every round. So that's pretty massive. So that's the metagaming part.
The same thing for some reason.
Well,
the way the feat works, it's
that's
really weird.
Straight up. I know that we mentioned metagaming a lot. These bad guys are gonna freaking kill us. Like that is where my head is at now. I don't feel like it's so much metagaming as much as it is like our party comp late game is in big trouble. We have to start.
Aaron.
Aaron, right? We have to start thinking about ways for survivability, right? And that, like, Silas, you said about Frizz, like it matters when he hits. It matters when Clary gets off the damage. It matters when Urkel demoralizes. Those -1s become so important when they start stacking, and persistent damage becomes a much bigger player because combat lasts longer. So I feel like there's been a couple of tricks in the bag that we haven't really gotten a chance to do just yet, just because we've only had the first half of one combat. But there's some things that I think will give us a good edge that we've either purchased, reworked, or added to our characters. So I'm a little bit less apprehensive going into some of these like later combats. Kalere, hoping to God she doesn't die. Hoping to God Urkel doesn't, because that means Urkel's gonna be right there next to her when she dies. Because I'm always right there next to you. So maybe I'll be next. But I think only time will tell. Really good answers, guys. We are at our very last. That was our very last question. So that about wraps up episodes 91 through 95. Thank you all so much for coming this evening. We're gonna go ahead and roll. We're gonna let the D20 decide the winner of the.
Wait.
Oh,
Zach,
go ahead.
Zach.
Yes, last things.
What about meme of the month?
You're
For
right.
those
You're
who are
right. You're right. I
listening.
didn't announce meme of the month. We're gonna add a new segment to the show. We didn't want to. We didn't want to spoil it this month because there wasn't enough time to really get people there. Yes, thank you. Everyone, come back. Everybody, just say that we're done discussing. We're back. Meme of the month. So in order, we're gonna. I don't think we're gonna give a die out for meme of the month, but we will. We're coming up with some goodie to hand out, whether that be stickers or I think stickers. I think it's going to be stickers. So we have a couple basically good stickers that we're going to be giving out. My cheeks are rosy. It's very. Oh, thank you. Hold on.
So wait.
Show again.
And there's mine.
Boom, boom, boom. We got a couple of water bottle boys. Those are some of the stickers. We have also some PP11 stickers that are large and some bigger Aaron stickers. Now some 3-inch Aaron stickers that are nice. And then some old crappy, basically good stickers that we have a lot of. So we'll give you some of those as well. Meme of the month is going to take place in our Discord. So we have a channel for show memes. And that's memes that you can make that are just based on the show, the episodes that are happening throughout the month. If you would like to submit a meme, it could be featured. On next month's episode of What's Going On Here. And this will be handpicked by us as a group. We'll vote on it, and then we'll reveal it, and then ship off them stickers. So you heard it here first. We'll make an announcement in the Discord as well for those who are not able to watch this. But you who are here at the latest Ep Gang get an edge. You could start working on memes right now. Go ahead and just, again, drop this in the Discord. Discord can be found. There's a link tree on our Twitter. With an invite to the Discord, as well as our Instagram, I believe, has one. And thank you, Basic Bernie, for dropping it in the chat here today. If you wanted it in the Discord, jump in. But yes, that would be meme of the month.
Also,
yes,
Scallywag. You don't have to necessarily make the meme. If you find a meme that makes really good sense for like the show, and like you could type text before it, Kalere when Urkel is smelly, and then post a picture that's a different meme. That counts. Or even just like a sentence that's just funny also would count, in my opinion. So
right. Also, if anybody says something that like makes that meme that Ronnie just said, you're disqualified. Or first person to drop it gets credit for it, and no one else can drop it. We'll say that.
Yeah. So yeah, feel free to be creative with, the definition of meme is a lot bigger than it was back 10, 15 years ago.
Animal days.
You don't have to use
animals.
like rage comic faces.
Please use
for
rage comic and advice animals only. Only submit
memes could be
those.
Ronnie, so it could be like a sentence, like anything could be meme. It could be like an audio clip.
Oh gosh,
right.
We have a lot of submissions.
We do.
We've got a lot
we have this thing that we do in one of our group chats where Chance or I will be editing, and it'll just be a soundbite of somebody saying something that out of context is just horrendous, and those will never see the light of day.
Shit, here we go! Oh my gosh!
That isn't an episode though. That is
That
one of my
is,
favorites.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, man.
Oh my
Sure.
god!
I mean, the classic.
I don't know. I think I stand probably on the more like conservative side of.
That was the one that started all of this. That was the one that started it.
That's true.
Isn't
that's
it?
true. It is.
That was the one that started it all.
Stop
That was
shit.
the one that started
We are very close to having a full Zach soundboard, and I am
We
so
are.
excited
Dude,
for it.
none of those can be played though.
Fine.
Okay, actually, that's not true. There's plenty that can be played.
Oh man.
Snotbag is back. Evil Snotbag, you made it back. We're talking about meme of the month. Real quick recap. So you could submit your meme, your latest episode meme, to show memes in Discord. You are already part of the Discord. Most people here are already part of the Discord. The winner of meme of the month will get some stickers and shout it out. We'll have a segment on the show where we'll show the meme for all to see, God and country and man to see. Yeah, it should be really fun next week. So it'll be next month. So check it out. If you haven't been in the Discord, go check out the show memes tab, and you can submit there. And like Silas was saying, it can be a sentence. It doesn't have to necessarily be a picture. It could be a regular meme with some text attached to it that you just type in the Discord. Check it out. We're gonna go ahead and roll the D20. Put it closer to me. The D20, I have a list of names here of people that have asked questions. I'm going to roll the D20, and I'm going to count down the list like a Mario Party.
Marty Party.
A Mario Party mini game.
Kids playing these days, they're Murdy Purdy.
That is cringe. Here it goes. Marty Party. 13. 13.
13.
Here we go.
Who's 13?
And our winner of the Matte Black D20 is none other than Scallywag. Miss Scallywag, we will get this set out to you ASAP. Big cheers. Hold on. We got big claps in the audience. We're going to get a big clap from the audience. Big clap from the boys. Congratulations. We will get this cool little... this is my favorite. This is my favorite kind of D20.
Is sexy.
It is uninked, so
It's great.
It can be a little bit hard to read. However, this is the most readable uninked D20 that I've played with. You can ink it whatever you want. You can also just take a crayon and shove it in there, whatever color you want.
Crown.
A crown. A crayon. That'll be all for today, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this month's episode of What's Going On Here. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye. Big bye.